Today's Small Business Saturday Radio podcast is being brought to you by Noretta Family Medicine, cutting through the red tape of healthcare.
Good morning, Columbia, South Carolina, and to everyone who's tuning in around the Midlands. Welcome to Small Business Saturday Radio. I am Tazima, the host. I forgot who I am. I'm so tired. I'm the host of the show. My co-host Steve is not in the studio with us today, but I have someone even better. That's right, Steve, you're being replaced. No. I do have someone in the studio that I really love being in the studio with because I can pick her brain on so many different topics and subjects, and she's just like this walking encyclopedia on so much stuff. So you guys know her as Kasie. She co-hosts the morning shows with Kev. Okay, so every morning, Monday through Friday, from 7 to 9, that's Kasie's voice you're hearing. She's also an author. She's a professor. She's a radio talk show host. She's a podcaster. She's, you know what, the list of all the things that she do, we'll probably get into that. But you're like a Renaissance woman.
I just like to stay busy.
Very busy. So people accuse me of being a serial entrepreneur. Yes, and you're an entrepreneur. What would you be called? Are you a serial what?
Look, if I boil it down to like the very first principles of what am I,
yeah.
Like, who am I would say I'm a storyteller. I like stories. I like to ask people questions, which is what I think makes me a good radio show person. But I like to write stories as well. So there comes the author thing. And when I'm in the classroom, I tell stories about businesses that help people understand abstract concepts. So yeah, I would say storyteller is probably the first principle for me.
I love that. And I do think that if you're going to be a good talk radio show host, you have to be interested in hearing other people's stories. And particularly for me, it's their backstory that I always find fascinating. Like, how did you get to this moment?
Right.
And when we go through that backstory, I just find that amazing. And it doesn't matter who I'm talking to. If they have an interesting backstory, the first thing I'm like, I got to have you on the radio. So, but anyway, so today, what we're going to be talking about is content creating in the digital world, if that makes sense. I'm old now, so a lot of my lingo is probably going to be like, I don't know what I'm talking about. But explain to people what content creating is, Kasie, because you can break it down.
Yeah, I think this word first came into our common lexicon probably about 10, maybe 15 or 20 years ago, where all of a sudden the focus became on content marketing. And the idea was that you could create informational posts on a blog, or you could create informational videos, and you could educate the people that were your potential audience and your potential customers. And so businesses started to invest pretty heavily in blogs and web content and in videos and that kind of thing to try to push this information about their product out into the marketplace. And so, but we've always had content in a way. We used to, when we think of things like streaming services and television programs and that kind of thing, that's content too. And radio shows like you and I do, that's content as well. All of that falls into the category of content. But back in the day, there were like really high barriers to entry. So you couldn't just start a TV show. You know what I mean? Like you had to have a studio, you had to have access to the broadcast network. Like there were barriers to entry to be able to do that. But when YouTube came online, anybody could upload a video and now they have a channel, right? And so it kind of broke that open in like the 2005, 2006 timeframe. And that led to the same sort of lens showing up on radio, where like right now to be on the radio, like you and I know Kev, and we're on The Point, right? And so we're part of a radio broadcast network, but you don't have to do the radio broadcast network to put your audio content out there. And so we see this rise in podcasts.
Or your visual.
Yeah. So the videos are out there too.
Right. So, and that's what and I guess that's who we are now. It's like, all these barriers have just fallen, right? And now it seems like the public is catching up with that because it seems like legacy media, people aren't interested in that anymore. Nobody really watches. I mean, unless you're like, I don't know, late 60s or whatever, nobody really watches TV the way that they used to.
Right.
We all binge watch stuff. Remember back in the day, if there was a series that came on, you had to tune in every Wednesday at 9 o'clock or whatever.
Every Thursday, right? For ER at 10 o'clock.
Exactly. Yeah. And now you can just watch everything in like hours. You know, it's like all. But the other thing that's happened is the episodes are so much shorter than traditional series, right? So instead of having 13 to 15 episodes for this season or whatever, now you're down to 6. And the thing is but you can watch it all. It's kind of creepy, but it's also really cool too. Yeah, because there seems to be something behind the curtain that none of us are really considering.
Well, there's a little bit of like, now that we have this binge culture, we were just talking about this on Right On at 9 o'clock this morning.
Oh, wow.
Because of binge culture, people are diving headfirst into a world and they're staying there for longer periods of time. So you're there for like 5 episodes, 8 episodes, 10 episodes, right? But books are the same way. So people are writing these series of books and you're reading, 8, 10, 12 books in the series because you really want to be deeply connected to these characters and to that author and their style. And I think like that's just a shift away from what we used to have, which was, you had like originally 5 broadcast channels and everybody had the same sort of evening programming, right? Where you had the news and then you have some sitcoms and then you have a drama. Like there was this kind of standard of how things went. And now it's just sort of a free for all, like anything goes. And you can go by genre, you can go by the length of the episode, you can and I think COVID really pushed that. It accelerated that because everybody was at home. And so everybody was looking for things to entertain themselves so that they wouldn't have to talk to each other and probably fight about politics. You know what I mean? And so instead it was like, all right, well, let's find some shows. And then we saw Netflix go to start building Netflix originals and Hulu did the same. And like all these.
But let's talk briefly because you just touched on something, Netflix. Because remember, we used to have Blockbuster.
Right.
And I was looking at this documentary that was talking about Blockbuster literally had the opportunity to become a Netflix, but they were just like, no, nobody's going to want that. They want these
so
big bulky tapes, or they want these CDs or whatever. They were so sad.
They like the browsing experience of being in the store. Yeah. And they'll pay the late fees for the benefit of the browsing experience. Yeah.
And now we have Netflix and the convenience of just watching this stuff in your pajamas. You
and
don't
then they
have
suggest the next thing to you to keep you on the couch, right? Where it's like, hey, people who watch this also watch that. You should watch this next.
So what do you think this is saying about where we're headed? Like, I want to know what your thoughts are on what do you think this is going to look like in the next 5-10 years and things that business owners can be aware of or on the lookout for. And I know we've got like 10 seconds, so I want you to keep that thought because you know me, I'll come back and completely forget it, especially with you because we can talk about anything. But yeah, I really, because part of me is excited about it, but part of me is just like, what are we doing?
We'll talk about it though because I think content exhaustion is on its way.
Oh, all right, everybody. You're listening to Small Business Saturday Radio. We'll be right back.
The City of Columbia's Office of Business Opportunities supports small business owners. We help minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses with loans, technical assistance, education, and advocacy. We're here to help business owners avoid mistakes. Contact us with questions and let us help. For more information, call 803-545-3950 or visit obo.columbiasc.gov. Together, we are Columbia.
Are you looking for a luxurious way to pamper yourself? Look no further than Sunrise Artisan Bath & Body. Our plant-based soaps and lotions are designed to provide you with the ultimate experience. Our products are natural and nourishing, leaving you feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. So go ahead, treat yourself with Sunrise Artisan, which is more than a bath, it's an experience. Sunrise Artisan, located at 710 Saluda Avenue in 5 Points, or online at sunrisebath.com. Sunrise Artisan. This segment of Small Business Saturday Radio is brought to you proudly by A Little Happy in 5 Points.
All right, everybody, welcome back. You're listening to Small Business Saturday Radio. I'm Tazima in the studio today with Kasie Whitener, who is not only a really good friend of mine, somebody that I can and I mean this, ask anything about when it comes to business, content, books, writing. I decided to write I don't know if it's called a short story or a paragraph, and I'm being facetious, but I gave it to her to look at for me and give me ideas like, where did I screw up or what do I need to do? She's a really, really, really good friend, among so many other things that she do. And today we're talking about content creating, and we're about to discuss the future of it, because I'm somebody who I like to look down the line to see what are my real choices, so what's really happening here, not to the point of procrastination, but just it's really important to me, Kasie, that I'm aware, I know what the sacrifice is that I'm about to make.
Well, we're already seeing choice paralysis, right? I suffer from this where I don't know what I want to watch. Mm-hmm. And so I put up, Netflix or whatever, and I just start scrolling through, and I don't select anything because I think there might be a better thing that I would have missed out on. Mm-hmm. And then after a half hour of not finding anything to watch, I just don't watch anything at all. And this is a phenomenon that psychologists have studied where the reason that store shelves shouldn't have more than 3 options on them or 5 options on them is that people will get into choice paralysis, and then they won't buy anything at all. And so there's psychology behind that says you want to make sure that you limit their choices so that they will actually select something and make the purchase.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I always thought it was the other way around, and this is why I'm exhausted. Because I always thought the more choices you give people, then you're kind of making sure that you haven't left anyone out, even though that's next to impossible. I've always felt for instance, I'm going to make sure that I have non-fragrant stuff for people who don't want fragrance. I'm going to make sure I have fruity stuff. I'm going to make sure I have earthy stuff. And that's what ends up. So I have bath bombs, 30 different, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're saying the psychology of that is to reduce it?
Well, and I'm not an expert on this, right? I just know I've heard people talk about it in that way, right? That have said choice paralysis is a real thing. And I've experienced it as far as content is concerned, on streaming channels and on YouTube and whatever else, where I just get overwhelmed by how much is available to me.
But you know what's funny? I literally remember a man in the store who basically said what you just said.
That there's just too much.
He said it was so much that he was so overwhelmed that he didn't know what to get. And I'm looking at him maybe that's just the man brain. I don't know. But so I ended up, and this is why I do baskets now. That way, look, dude, just get a basket. But that's really fascinating. But let's get back to...
So let's talk about the content.
Yeah, the content.
So there's so much content being created right now that I think we're going to end up with content paralysis, right? Where people just don't want it anymore. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes not an effective way to sell your product. So this is where we kind of separate between the two. Either people are producing content for the purpose of selling a product like you are, to build people's interest in Sunrise Artisan and get them into the store, get them on your website, get them to be buying bath bombs, right? Or they're just producing content for the sake of content. That is the product. And that's these kinds of the podcasters like Joe Rogan and Adam Grant. Well, actually, even Adam Grant, who's one of my favorite podcasters, he writes books. So he's kind of podcasting to sell his books. Our show on Saturday mornings right on SC, we are creating content for the purpose of selling books. We want people to think of us as authors and experts, and they want to go out and buy our books. But in the case of a Joe Rogan, the show itself is the product. That is the content that he's selling. And so then he's using the advertiser model to be able to pay the bills for that, right? That's how he makes his money, is that people want access to his audience. And so the advertisers come in and they put it, and that's the same way that we do on The Point here all day, every day, is we have advertisers that pay for our airtime, and they want access to the audience that we're bringing in to listen to what you have to say about small businesses, right? And so all that model is all the same, but I think we're just like at this point of saturation because the barriers to entry have come down, and anybody with a microphone can have a podcast.
And that's the part that creeps me out.
Yeah.
Because that's where you fall into misinformation. So as an example, I have people that come into the shop and they'll tell me things like they love watching soap making videos, which I think is just saturated the digital world. Everybody's doing anyway.
You should know they're not on my For You feed.
So
nobody is trying to get me to watch soap making videos.
Yeah.
So it's a specific niche of the internet that people are in.
Right. And I always think to myself, without trying to sound egotistical, that especially the ones that tell me they want to make soap and they saw a video that showed them how. And the first thing I think about is that that's not how you learn how to make soap. Maybe that is your entryway into it. But if you think that you're going to be at the same level that I'm at because you watched a YouTube video. So what it comes down to is that because anybody can post anything, number one, I wonder about integrity, authenticity, the fact that, you know, a lot of us are misled because maybe the person that's in the video is an attractive person. So
or they make it look easier than it really is.
Or they make it look easier than what it is. So you got this eye candy, or it's like, oh, I can do that. And that the meme, I remember they said, I spent like $1,000 to make something that I could have bought from the store for $10.
For like $10, exactly.
So talk about that.
So this is a strategy called Be Like the Chefs, which is where we think about back to the Food Network when it first got started. Mm-hmm. And you had these chefs, these really famous chefs like Jada and Emerald, and they would come on these shows and they would show you exactly how to do everything they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's all the ingredients I'm using. Here's the method that I'm going to use. Mm-hmm. And they would talk you through the recipe and they would put it out there like as if you could do the thing. And the reason they did that was because they know you can't. They know that you don't have the experience that they have. They know that you're not the chef that they are, right? Mm-hmm. And so you might come close, but you're not going to get it exactly the way. They're not threatened by your ability to copy what they do because they know that you don't have the experience that goes into it.
Or the hours that you put in to even get to that level.
Because it's not your craft, right?
That's
like
right.
In that case, my husband is a fantastic cook. Charlie is an exceptional cook,
Mm-hmm.
but he's in nursing school, right? Like, and he's going to be a nurse. So like cooking is a hobby for him. He's not going to spend the amount of time and energy and the expertise and the classes and all that stuff to get better than he is. He'll keep cooking. Thankfully, thanks for me. You know, like that makes me happy. He'll keep cooking and he'll get better every time he does. But he's not going to end up with his own restaurant, right?
You know, I know
he's not a threat to Emerald Lagasse.
I know a lot of folks too that will say that, particularly people who love cooking. They say, I will never open a restaurant because, number one, the moment they turn it into a job, because it does become a job, then they lose the passion or the fun.
Right.
Whereas on the other side, someone like me, I could only see me doing a business.
Right.
Like I cannot see me just making soap for my friends and family.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But you love the business side of it too. I mean, I think that's really critical. There's a great book called The E-Myth.
Yes.
Where, Michael Gerber, and he talks about how if you're a baker and you love to bake, that doesn't mean you need to own a bakery.
That's right.
Because you have to love the business side of it too. And I think you're gifted with that you not just love the making soap and the product production side, but you love customers and you love how excited they get about your product and the running of the business itself and all the strategies that go into product placement and that kind of thing. And you've got to be passionate about that side too, or as you know, you will not last. Yeah, you will not.
That's
last.
so funny. I read that E-Myth book a while back too. Probably
it's a good one.
Yeah, it's really good. I recommend if you have a business or thinking about starting a business, because he really breaks down how to upscale and, you know, a lot of the stuff that he talks about in this book, I've literally experienced.
Right.
When he talks about the lady with the pies and how she was there all the time. And then she just got to the point where she was burnt out.
But I think it's because the biggest thing, and we talk about this, Kev and I talk about this with the radio station too. Kev loves talk radio. He loves being on the show, right? That's he's passionate about that. But to build the point, he had to love all of it. Yeah. He had to love, you know, finding advertisers and building out the Point family and measuring, you know, listeners and things like you have to love the whole of the business, in order to stick with it.
So, what do you think? Like podcasting since we're talking about this now, wait, we got a minute. Okay, I'm so caught up in what you're saying.
Can I tell you, every day I do that, where I leave that one particular lever down.
Yes.
And I forget that that's the music that's going to cue us to go to commercial.
Yes.
And then Kevin will be like, and we're going to, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
I have to like push it up real quick.
So inside jokes, folk, the people who know how to produce, they get it.
These things happen.
Yeah. So the podcasting versus legacy media. Like you touched on, anybody can put a microphone in their face and tell you, we found alien eggs and now we're all about to be abducted or whatever, depending on, and I love shows about aliens,
right,
but depending on what your nature is and how much you engage in critical thinking, you might be ready, I'm out of here. You know what I'm saying? Because the aliens have arrived. What do you think is going to happen with legacy media? And then you have so many people that are already complaining that legacy media really wasn't real media anyway, and now you can go to a podcast and get the real stuff.
Yeah, we should. And I think this is obviously going to bleed over on the other side of the break, but my quick take on it is that it's incumbent upon the listener to ask the right questions. And unfortunately, I don't think our regular listeners have time for that. And so a lot of times they grab one thing or another thing off a podcast and they believe that thing to be true, even if that thing hasn't been checked, hasn't been vetted, right? And so the lower barriers to entry are both a good thing and a bad thing. And I think we get into that on the other side.
All right, everybody, we got to go to bottom of the hour news, but we will be back right after that. You're listening to Small Business Saturday Radio.
Welcome to Saluda's, located in the heart of Five Points since 1996 and specializing in fine dining Southern cuisine with a continental flair. Come enjoy your next dinner in our beautiful white tablecloth dining room overlooking 5 Points. You'll experience great ambiance, fantastic food, and exceptional service. Need space for your next dinner meeting or special occasion? Reserve one of our 2 private dining rooms for larger groups of up to 50. Saluda's outdoor seating is the best in Columbia, overlooking the iconic 5 Points fountain. A few of our signature dishes include our shrimp and grits, seared scallops, and one of the best filet mignons you have ever tasted. The bar is stocked with craft beers and signature cocktails, and our wine list was just awarded the Wine Spectator Award of Excellence. Join us for dinner 7 nights a week starting at 5 p.m. and experience Southern hospitality and cuisine with a modern spin. Saluda's at 751 Saluda Avenue. Make reservations at saludas.com or call 799-9500. That's 799-9500.
This is the Business Tip of the Week, brought to you by The Hideout, located at 118 State Street in West Columbia.
All right, everybody, welcome back. So, Kasie, this is the part of the show we talk about Business Tip of the Week.
Sure.
What is your Business Tip of the Week?
I think when a business is interested in developing a content marketing strategy, meaning that they're going to start putting content online, whether it's through social media channels or in a blog or in some kind of YouTube video, they should be intentional about what they want that strategy to look like. And so here's a really quick strategy. It's called How, Now, Wow. In the how content, you'll show somebody how to do something. So if we're going to use Sunrise Artisan as an example, you might make videos that show you how to do packaging or how to choose a scent or how to, I don't know, it would be a short how to, right? Then the now content is whatever's happening in the world right now that is relevant to your business. So for example, with the soap store, if some headline came out that people were breaking out in rashes or something had been on recall, right? Some like big manufacturer that put chemicals in their soap, then your content would be about that. You would be like, here's why an all natural soap is the right way to go. And you would basically be sort of countering or like piggybacking off of the popularity of that now story. It's now because everybody's talking about it. And oh, by the way, we're talking about it too, basically. So that's another category of content. And then the third is the wow content. And that's where you're winning awards or you've promoted somebody or you're, you got recognized in some way. You got to ring the bell on Wall Street, like whatever kind of super fun thing you want to celebrate. That's your wow content. So as you go to build a content marketing strategy, business tip of the week, think how, now, wow. And what that will allow you to do is change up your content and always have something that you can put into those content places. And then don't forget to repurpose it. So if you write the blog, then you want to take little segments from the blog and make those your social media posts. If you make a video, you want to cut that video into smaller pieces so you can use it for social media. But like, you don't have to you can do one piece of media can go into multiple channels.
Yeah, I kind of learned that last night. So I should make this announcement. So finally, I did say I was going to do it in January, and yesterday was the last day of January. So I finally was able to create the podcast for this show, and it only took me 6 hours.
So there you go.
So, no, but the thing about it is that it's definitely a learning curve to it. It's a good experience. The problem that I have now, though, is that I'm so intrigued by it that I have to force myself not to get into it right now because I really need to make product.
Right.
But I'm so excited about all the things you can do. And one of those things was I didn't know, like it was saying, trim your clip. I don't know what that is. So I put it up there. And then after I put it up there, or this particular thumbnail thing or whatever, then after I heard it, I was like, oh, that's why they were saying trim the clip down to like a minute.
Right.
And I think I had it up there for like 5.
Right.
But it's so intriguing to me. But the other part of it, I guess it can be fun if you really like it, but it can also be overwhelming. And you have to, if it's like having 2 completely different career paths.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you are a podcaster and this is what you do all day and you post several times a day, I get that, right? But if you're a business owner that makes everything, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to have to trim this down in a way that makes sense. Because it takes so much time, to put those things up.
It's like anything else, though. If you were going to be putting out an email newsletters for me take me 3 hours to organize, right? Like that. And I know I'm supposed to be sending at least one per month, right? So every month there's at least one day that I'm going to spend 3 hours.
But do people even read emails
They
anymore?
do. Email marketing is actually one of the best ways to reach your customers.
Are you serious?
Yeah. It is it is still very, very effective. And so these kinds of things, like any effort that you're going to put into marketing as a business owner, there's got to be a balance there, right? Like you can't spend all your time marketing. Right. And so you want to figure out, this is the strategy, the bullseye strategy, right? Which is like, there are 19 possible ways to get to your customer. And we don't have to do all 19, but like things like you could do a publicity stunt, right? Like you could go out there and you could put a billboard out on the, like mass marketing, a billboard out on the street or whatever, right? All these 19 ways, right? And then you narrow it down to the ones you can actually do. Like, what can you afford to do? What do you have the skill set to do? So if you have the skill set to organize a podcast, by all means do that, right? If you have the skill set to do social media marketing, TikTok or Instagram, by all means do that, right? And then after what do you have the skill set to do, you narrow it even further to what actually works. Yeah. So you really want to be measuring, are people clicking through my podcast, listening to the whole episode, and then walking in the door at Sunrise Artisan and saying, I heard you on the radio, I heard you on your podcast, and I'm here to buy soap because of that, right?
Right.
And if they're not, then that doesn't work. Like, even though you're doing it and it might be fun, it's not working because it's not converting into sales.
So what is the difference between a podcast and a video? Because I thought they were the same, but now I'm finding out they're different. So I thought a video thing, like if Kasie has a show that where, there's visuals of you doing the show, I thought that was a podcast. But now I'm finding out that podcasts, I guess, are more audio based.
Yeah. So originally podcasts were audio only, right? The reason they're called podcasts, and we were talking about this off the air, but the reason they're called podcasts is because Apple separated, when you had your iPod, they separated out the two types of content you would put on your iPod. One was iTunes, which was associated with musicians, and there was a certain kind of encryption that went along with those to satisfy the music industry. And the other was podcasts, and they're called podcasts because of iPods, right? And so these were audio files that didn't have that same level of encryption, and they were mostly spoken word kind of stuff, so like radio type files. So that's kind of where it comes from, is from Apple separating these two types of audio content. Well, then once people started doing podcasts and they realized how they could also stream, they could live stream on any one of these platforms with video. So you can, while you and I are sitting here with our headphones on and the microphones in front of us, we could have a camera live streaming us onto Twitch, which is a really popular platform for gamers. It could be live streaming on YouTube. It could be live streaming on Facebook, like all these different ways that we could be showing people the two of us in the studio. And I always joke that like nobody cares about seeing us sitting in front of microphones. So why would we bother doing that? But some people do. And that's what has happened now is like people like Joe Rogan who have a podcast, which is primarily audio, right? You don't have to see what's happening to understand what they're doing on the show, but they also have this video component with it. And so they're putting it on YouTube and it's just a matter of leveraging multiple channels for the same content. So they're using the term interchangeably. We have a podcast and oh, by the way, it's a video. It's kind of this, they're using it interchangeably now, but originally podcast was audio and a channel or a video was different, right? You had a show on YouTube. But now they're putting them together. So they're sort of melding into one big thing where some podcasts also have a video component, but a lot of them are just audio.
Okay, so this is what I wanted to ask you. So I started the first podcast I published last night, and some kind of way I'm supposed to be able to upload it to Instagram, LinkedIn, Spotify, Apple, whatever. Does the platform for podcasts automatically do that, or is that now another step that if you're interested in podcasting, that now you got to learn or open up accounts in all these other spaces just so that your stuff can be on these other social platforms, I guess?
Well, yeah. So you'd have to have an account on those social platforms anyway, because that's how it would get out to the audience, right? So if you have a Facebook, like we have for Right on SC, we have a Facebook page and we also have a Facebook group, which is Right on SC. So if we do live streaming through Facebook, the people in the Facebook group can see us streaming live on Facebook, right? We also have an X account, which used to be Twitter, right? But it's also X. And so we will actually just post the link to our podcast on X. We don't put all the podcast out there. We just post the link to it. When people click on it, it's going to take them over to the podcast platform that we're using, right?
So that's interesting. So actually what I did, so at this point, I can just post the link to just like posting anything else, like my pictures of soap.
Anywhere
I can
else.
just post the link now to an Instagram or to a LinkedIn or to YouTube or whatever. I can just copy and paste and boom.
Yeah. So it's there's a difference between types of digital platforms. So like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook are primarily amplify platforms, meaning that what you put there is something that you're trying to drive traffic to something else, right? I say TikTok, that's not true. TikTok is different. But but if you go to Instagram and you see this like short little clip, I don't expect to put my entire podcast on Instagram. What I expect to do is show you enough of the podcast that you want to go to somewhere else and listen to it.
Oh, okay.
So it's an amplify. That's an amplify channel.
So that's why that thing was asking me about trimming it down.
Yeah, because it wants you to create a sound bite.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, it's just Instagram is meant to be short videos, right? So in that case, like you're going to amplify what you have on the podcast platform, or if it's on your website, you're going to amplify it using these social medias. So X and Instagram, and usually Facebook as well. Facebook has gotten into the like platform world too, so you can actually just put it on Facebook and leave it on Facebook, and like amplify it through Facebook. That's what they want you to do. But most people will also share that elsewhere. And a lot of times if people don't have a Facebook account and you try to amplify your Facebook thing somewhere else, they can't get to it because it's hidden behind, right? And that's what happens with TikTok too. TikTok will take your content and post it on TikTok, but if you don't have TikTok, you can't see it.
Right.
And so when you put it out to the world, those potential audience members, if they don't have TikTok, they're not going to be able to see it. And that's a barrier, right?
Well, I want to, okay, so we're down to 20. So we're definitely going to have to talk about this on the other side of the break. So the fear that's surrounding TikTok, and I'm not talking about it shutting down or not shutting down, but there seems to be this real, these real issues that we should consider, I guess, as consumers. I want to talk about that a little bit and how exposed you become when you post on different platforms.
Absolutely.
Like this.
That's a great topic.
All right, everybody, we'll be right back.
Are you frustrated with the healthcare system and looking for a change? Then look no further. I'm Dr. Melissa Boylan with Noretta Family Medicine. We are a direct primary care office where we take the time to get to know you. For a reasonable monthly fee, we offer transparent billing and easy-to-access primary care for all ages. Noretta Family Medicine, cutting through the red tape of healthcare. Find out more by visiting NorettaFamilyMed.com. That's NORETA FamilyMed.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back. I'm telling you, I'm having a blast in the studio with Kasie Whitener, who during the breaks, man, maybe on the podcast, I just had an idea, Kasie. I could have a whole section of what we talk about during the break.
Yeah.
Right? That would be so cool. That could be a tool to get people to want to listen, too.
That's compelling content, what we're talking about during the break.
Compelling content. But anyway, again, I love having Kasie in the studio because not only does she just know so many things, she's just really thorough with it, too. And you can tell from listening to her that she just knows it. I mean, it's a no-brainer that you're a professor, dude, because this is so like you. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. It's just like it's so you. So anyway, for those of you who don't know, because we have to plug you real quick, and then I want to get back to the TikTok question.
Sure.
But I want you to let everybody know how they can get in touch with you. Those of you that listen to this show or listen to the station, you already know you can listen to her every morning, Monday through Friday, from 7 to 9 a.m. with Kevin. And then you got websites, podcasts, videos, groups, books.
Yeah, we're everywhere. We're everywhere. So if for some reason you're a point listener and you haven't gotten enough of Kasie, by all means, KasieWhitener.com is my website. WriteOnSC.blog is where we do our Write on SC show, and we've got all our show notes and our links to our podcasts out there, and my books are there and that sort of thing. But KasieWhitener.com is probably the quintessential place to find everything. And actually, the most recent blog post is about me talking trash to Kev right before Washington beat Detroit in the
I am known at this station for not knowing anything about sports.
That's fine.
Don't pull
That's
me
fine.
in.
Our listeners will know. If you missed the morning where Kevin used the phrase, "Boy, you got a real set on you, Whitener, don't you?" Then yeah, you're going to want to listen to that segment.
Well, that sounds like a potential lawsuit. No, I'm teasing. Okay, so I want to touch on the whole TikTok thing because on the one hand, and I've done TikTok a few times, and it's hilarious, it's easy, CapCut, it's fun. I can be myself and I don't care. People, the one thing about TikTok that I do like, it seems to be a little bit more authentic.
Right.
But then there's this whole other dark side of TikTok that's out there. And once again, here we go, not knowing what's truth, right? Because everybody has a microphone.
Right. So
the dark side of it, they're getting all of your information and turning it over to the Chinese government, okay? Or, they got all your information and they selling it to these other groups that then puts your stuff on the black market, or they co-opt your social security number, or they co-opt your bank accounts. Talk about that. What's going on with that? And doesn't all of them pretty much do that at this point?
So So here's the sort of the short version of the story. TikTok is a platform where people who are creators on TikTok, meaning that they're posting original content on TikTok, that content lives on TikTok. And if you can't get it off of there. So in order to access it, you have to have TikTok. Now we've seen where people are taking that content and also posting it on Instagram. So like 2 or 3 days later, I'll see it on Instagram. I'll try to share it with Holly, and Holly will be like, oh, I saw that on TikTok a few days ago. Right. So we are starting to see where creators are using both of these platforms to deliver this kind of short form content. The risk with TikTok is twofold. Number one, if you're a creator who's built a business on TikTok, meaning that you have so many followers and you are getting so much traction with your content that you're getting paid spots, you're making money off of advertising, and TikTok actually pays their creators to put content on the platform. That is not true of any other platform. So you actually can get paid for putting videos there if the videos are engaging enough and people like them enough, right? So if you've built a business there, you're a content creator and you live on TikTok, right? Then the idea that it could be shut down is putting your entire business at risk. So just to put that out there.
Right.
All right. So that said, the threat, of course, is the relationship with the Chinese government and not having transparency to what the Chinese government can and cannot see and do and manipulate. And the concern is, and it's a good concern, is that they are manipulating what content is being shown. And there are studies that have shown that in TikTok, the amount of anti-Chinese rhetoric on TikTok is significantly lower than it is on other platforms. And so you can go on other platforms and you can talk about communism is bad and China is communist and that makes them bad.
Gotcha.
But on TikTok, you can't do that, right? And so we know that there's some level of suppression of the messaging.
Yeah.
And we're also seeing pro-Chinese content on TikTok, which indicates that maybe the Chinese government is using it as a propaganda tool. So all of that is like what the problem is. That's why people are swirling around about it. And the big question is just how do you plan to use TikTok? And the bigger question really for our business owners who are listening today is, are your customers there? If your customers are learning about businesses like yours on TikTok, then you need to be there so that you can tell them about your business. But if your customers aren't on TikTok, you don't need to be on TikTok. Like that's just not a good channel for you to reach your customers if your goal is to create content for the purpose of bringing them into your business.
You know, the funny thing about it, though, is that I've never done a video that had like 3,000 views. And I put something on TikTok and it's like in 24 hours, it's like, oh my God, that got, 2,500 views.
But did it sell soap?
I don't know. Because I don't see, this is the thing for me. Once I see it, I'm done. I don't care. I mean, not that I don't care about selling the soap. I just figure like, okay, well, I did my video. Let me move on. So I don't get into the analytics, and I probably should or need to hire someone who can do that. What was the conversion rates, all this other stuff. I don't have time for that.
Right.
I've already did the video. That already took an hour. And then I got stuff to make, so I don't think about it. But I do want to add, because we're winding down real quick. Then why is it that the TikTok in China is, from my understanding, completely different from the TikTok that we're exposed to here? So TikTok in China is more considered like an educational tool, whereas over here is just straight up entertainment, buddy. So what is that something we should be concerned about or ask, like, why?
Well, I'm not.
What does that say about us?
I want to say I'm not an expert on TikTok. I don't
We're
know
all
about TikTok,
dancing.
But I will say that several years ago they were told they had to divest, and they didn't divest. What they did instead was they put a part of their business on U.S.-based servers, and they hired a U.S.-based company to manage TikTok here in the U.S. So that U.S.-based company that's been managing TikTok all this time has been, obviously dialing up more of what America wants. We don't typically go to social media to get educated. We might go to YouTube to look for educational videos, for TED Talk and that kind of thing. But
talking to a lot of people, I'm thinking that's where you're getting your information from.
You're not wrong. They're getting information there, but that doesn't make them educated.
Yeah, well,
right?
Okay, touche. That's a good point.
Yeah, because we don't know, and you don't know what the credibility of these sources is either.
Right.
And so I think that's what we were talking about a couple of breaks ago. Like the idea that anybody can do this, anybody can create content and put that content out into the world, that doesn't make that anybody an expert.
Right.
And it's really critical that the people who are consuming that content are being are thinking about it and trying to understand it and like, what am I seeing and what does this mean and how is this shaping my view of the world? And if we're not going to be responsible listeners and responsible consumers, then we don't need to be consumers.
And you know what, though? I think that's pretty much where we are. We're not responsible consumers because everything is so distracting now. The ability to engage in any kind, and I'm always saying this because it's so important, our inability to focus for more than 5 minutes, which allows us on some level to engage in critical thinking. And then we've got everybody's the expert now, so all these egos are everywhere. I just think that we are irresponsible. And that's why AI is going to destroy everything. No, because we're lazy. We want the robots to do it for us. That's what I need to do. I need to bring you on and talk about AI.
Taking a long walk off a short pier
yeah.
as far as digital content is concerned.
Oh, my gosh. Well, you know what? I'm excited about the podcast that we're doing now. I'm glad that I got someone like you that can help guide me through it. But, folks, listen, all I can tell you is check out Kasie, man, because she's good people. She knows what she's talking about. And she is a generous soul, too. Don't get greedy, but she's a generous soul. If you got a question, call her or go on her website. All right, everybody, you guys have a great weekend.